Hello, everyone. Live at lunch, Abigail Molina with Molina Immigration, where we melt the fear of ICE. Soy la abogada Abigail Molina. Estamos aquí hablando sobre temas de inmigración, contestando sus preguntas. Estamos aquí hoy, es jueves, el 6 de febrero a las 12:12 para contestar sus preguntas. We're here for about the next 50 minutes to talk about citizenship, birthright citizenship specifically, Trump's losses, his latest losses. I love to see that loser lose. He's such a good loser, he's good at it. So we're going to talk about it. I might gloat a little bit. We have to do that. We have to keep our spirits up. He's been trying to do a lot of damage to a lot of people, not just immigrants, but particularly in my world, I focus on immigrants. So he's been doing a lot of damage, and it's important to highlight the wins, because there will be wins along the way. It's going to be definitely a rough 4 years. We're here for it. We're in for it. We've been getting lots of calls from people who are concerned, who are wanting to know what they can do to protect their status, and a lot of questions about children of immigrants too. So that's why we're going to address that topic today. Vamos a estar hablando hoy que Trump está perdiendo y él pierda muy bien. No sé cómo decirlo en español, pero él es un perdedor, muy buen perdedor. Entonces, vamos a celebrar lo que él está perdiendo, y mientras estamos también batallando todavía, estamos ya dentro de los 4 años de Trump. Esperamos que no va a tener éxito en tener más años aquí como presidente, pero mientras él está presidente, vamos a estar aquí ayudando a los inmigrantes, celebrando cuando él pierda y apoyando cuando él tiene éxito. So let's talk about birthright citizenship. I'm going to talk for a little bit, and then we'll get into some questions. I know if you're joining on TikTok, you probably are here for the questions. Just hold tight for a few minutes. I want to talk about what's going on with birthright citizenship. This was something that he promised on the campaign trail, that he would end birthright citizenship. This seems to be a big talking point for MAGA, that they are concerned about immigrants coming here, having babies here, and then those babies become citizens automatically. He says that we're the only country, or one of the only countries in the world to do it, but there are the whole Western Hemisphere, all of North and South America, except for I think 2 or 3 countries, offer birthright citizenship. So it's less common in places like Europe and Asia, but on the Western side of the world, it's very common. And so he lies, of course, and one of his lies is that it's not common. Nobody else in the world is doing this. Why are we giving citizenship to the babies of immigrants? It's not true. And this is a foundational part of our Constitution, is that people born here have citizenship. And so what he tried to do with the executive order, taking away birthright citizenship by executive order, as one of the judges pointed out, is that he's trying to change the Constitution by executive order, and presidents do not have the power to change the Constitution. Only Congress does. And so this was absurd that he thought he could do this. I think that they tend to do a lot of things and see what they can get away with, and maybe if they do enough bad stuff, that some of it they'll get away with some of it, because maybe we can't catch all of it. But this one was pretty ridiculous, and I felt pretty sure that people would sue against it. Sure enough, that same night that the inauguration, when he announced the birthright citizenship, ending the birthright citizenship by executive order, there were already lawsuits. So now 2 judges have placed a pause on that executive order going into effect. The latest one today was in, I think, Virginia, and they've placed a permanent hold on that until the case is ended, that case will probably never end. It'll probably stay in court for at least the next 4 years. So it's essentially ended that promise that he wanted to do. So now he can say, "Oh, I tried. We got to fix this." It's horrible to me, because it is foundational to America, that America, unless you are 100% native. You are not from here. You are an immigrant. So that's why I say immigrants make America great. And how can you have a country that's founded by immigrants and then say, well, you can immigrate here, but you're never going to have even if you have children here, your children are never going to be given the same rights as other people who were from here previously. It would have created this like second class citizenship, like literally, like you are not a citizen, you do not have the same rights, you will never be able to have those same rights no matter how long you're here. And that's not what America is about. The whole birthright citizenship came from during, after slavery, and making sure that children of slaves wouldn't be, precluded from having those rights, that they would have the same rights as anyone else born here just because their parents were slaves. The people, the politicians at that time who put in the 14th Amendment, it was to address just that. So I'm happy to see this recent decision that the judge agrees with me, agrees with most of America, that people who are born here should have citizenship. Like I said, most of the Western Hemisphere, except 2 or 3 countries, offer birthright citizenship. And it's just the American way. So estoy platicando sobre los hijos de inmigrantes, que Trump quería acabar con la ciudadanía de ellos, ya no ofrecer ciudadanía a personas que nacieron aquí con su mamá o su papá inmigrante. Entonces, el mismo día que él anunció esto, a las cortes empezaron una demanda contra el programa y los jueces han decidido que ese programa no puede avanzar. Todavía van a seguir adelante con una demanda, y el proceso de la corte va a demorar años, tal vez décadas, mucho más de los años que tiene Trump para vivir. Entonces, este deseo de Trump está muerto. Ya no va a avanzar. Y qué bueno, porque nosotros somos un país de inmigrantes. Si no tiene 100% sangre nativo americano, no es de aquí, es inmigrante. Entonces, por eso digo que son los inmigrantes que hacen bien, que hacen grande a los Estados Unidos. El frase de MAGA, they make America great. Son los inmigrantes que lo hacen, no son personas que son de aquí, porque todos somos inmigrantes. No se puede distinguir o hacer separación entre esas personas. Entonces, qué bueno que las cortes han decidido que ese deseo de Trump de acabar con la ciudadanía por medio de nacer no es constitucional. Él estaba tratando de cambiar la constitución, la amenda de 14, no se puede, el presidente no tiene poder de hacerlo. Él quiso hacerlo, y las cortes lo están amparando. Entonces tenemos que celebrar las pequeñas celebraciones que podemos, porque sabemos que él va a seguir intentando hacer daño. So, vamos a empezar de contestar preguntas aquí. Si tiene preguntas, puede ponerlas. Estoy en Facebook, estoy en TikTok, entonces cualquier de los lugares. Okay, and see, here's the problem with Trump. He says these things and people take it as truth, and they forget that he's a liar. So someone's saying, wow, that's so untrue. No other country allows birthright citizenship. Just a quick Google search, you're going to see that many countries around the world do. In fact, all of the Western Hemisphere, except for like 2 or 3, don't. So please Google it. Don't just take my word for it, and don't say that I'm spreading false news. Trump is the one who is spreading fake information. This is fundamental to the American Constitution, that we offer birthright citizenship, and we're not the only ones. All around the world, many countries do this. So please just take a minute, do your own research, Google it. It's very easy to find that. Hamid, why the green card takes a long time to receive? You came to the U.S. before 3 months and didn't receive it. maybe are you saying that you were approved at the consulate and then you entered? It just takes them a while to process that card and make sure that it gets sent out. Make sure that you had your address correct. Check with them. You can call and see if it's in process, but it does take sometimes a few months to process that. And the haters are just out. Love it. You know you're doing something right when people hate you. Why is no one blocking the order for immigrants to not be sent to Guantanamo Bay? This is crazy. If you're not familiar, Guantanamo Bay is like on Cuba, and it's known for being a place where we send bad people and we torture them there. So they announced that they're going to start sending immigrants there. I've heard that they have sent some there already. I believe that there are lawsuits against that because their access to their due process right for legal representation is going to be very limited there. Prima facie for VAWA, that's a great first step. That means that they took a quick look. Prima facie is a Latin term that just means like first look. So they took a quick look at it. It looks approvable. They send you that notice to, number one, help you feel like your case is in process. Number two, it also gives you the right to receive certain benefits in your state. So make sure you check in with the state social services and begin getting those services. But congratulations, Jay. That's a great first step for your VAWA. Man, the hater's going to hate. Where's Taylor Swift? We need her. Tom Homan is the king. Yeah, basically like a border czar is the same term for a king. So it doesn't seem like he's doing very good, though, because ICE is actually releasing more people than they're detaining. So this big promise for shock and awe and mass deportations, they're quickly figuring out that they have no place to put them. They have like 49,000 beds, and before the inauguration, they were full up to like 46,000. So between the Lake and Riley Act, now they're required to detain shoplifters. There's no resources to do this. Now, maybe that's why Elon is in there confiscating everybody's Social Security. I'm sure that MAGA is going to be really happy about that when they start realizing that their Social Security is going to get diverted. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about immigration. Mi hermana está detenida por ICE en Luisiana. El juez dijo que si puede quedar, igual le deportan. Debe de estar buscando representación. Los casos cuando están detenidos muevan muy rápido y hay ciertas, hay opciones limitadas, entonces hay que estar buscando opciones con un abogado. Kevin, you received an RFE for your medical. You must have filed your adjustment of status before early December when they changed the requirement. Now you have to file your medical exam with your adjustment of status. Be careful about that. If you file it without it, it will be denied, probably without even a request for evidence. So that's probably why you received the request for evidence if you filed it before December 3rd was when they changed it. So make sure you do your medical. Probably the only good thing that's come out for immigrants since Trump took office is the decision to no longer require COVID. So if you're one of those that hasn't ever done COVID for whatever reason, you won't have to do it for your green card medical exam. How long does it take for a green card parent to file for over 21-year-old child? It depends if that child is married or single. It depends if that child is here undocumented or has any kind of criminal history, deportation history. It also depends what country that child is from, because there's a limit on how many can be approved. And so there's a backlog in most countries, about 15, 20 years. You're welcome, Jay. VAWA is still a great way for people to get status. I know that some people, there was a leak of a memo on Friday The ICE is considering whether they will review, accept like a receipt notice for a U or a VAWA, whether that will keep somebody from being deported or detained. That still hasn't been officially announced. It was just a leaked memo that they're considering this. So it's still safe and it's still advisable to file for VAWA, file for U. I think anyone who qualifies for anything, of course you need to talk with an attorney to decide the risk, the benefit. But my estimation is that most cases you're going to have a stronger benefit than a risk to filing it. Carlita, if my husband pays child support, does the child count as another person in the I-864? So they ask who is in your household. The I-864 is the affidavit of support. So whenever someone is petitioning an immigrant, they have to show that they will support that immigrant will not go on to food stamps, will not be a burden for our country. And so you have to show that you earn a certain amount. That amount is based on how many are in your household, either physically or that you're supporting. And so I don't think that the child support one specifically counts, but usually people who are paying child support are also going to claim that person on their taxes, and that does count. So Carlita, I would say yes. But if you're filing that application, I strongly recommend you talk with an attorney about that. Kevin, oh, great. You're doing an SIJ. I love those cases. I'm so glad that you were able to get this far with that. Sometimes what happens with the adjustment for the SIJ is that because there's a certain number of applications they can approve each year, and there is a backlog, sometimes that backlog goes backwards. And there's two different dates. So there's a date that you can file and a date that it will be approved. So sometimes you can file and then it can take several years before there's actually a visa available for you. So it's hard to tell when that will be approved, but usually the RFE for the medical exam is towards the end. So they could be getting ready to approve that for you. You can check out the visa bulletin and see if you can decipher that to see when your priority date might be current. Kimba, you started the process in 2014, over 10 years ago. The I-130 was approved, but then you stopped. Can you pick it back up? It depends. Depends if you stayed in contact with the National Visa Center. You are required to contact them at least once a year, and they will send you a warning that they're going to close your case if you don't contact them. So if you stayed in contact, yes, you can continue forward. You probably need the 601A waiver. You can go ahead and do that, get that started. But a lot of people that I talk to, for some reason, they stopped the process and they weren't aware that they were supposed to stay in touch with the National Visa Center. So after that 1 year period, they cancel the visa and you have to start all over. So check with the National Visa Center. If it's still alive there, then yes, you can continue forward. Viviana, can I get deported if I've been living here since 2008? You have 2 citizen daughters that came and you came with a visa. It depends how old your children are. They're U.S. citizens, so you've been here since 2008. I'm going to assume maybe that they were born around then or after 2008, maybe before then if you were here previously with a visa. But you're going to have to wait until your daughters are 21 in order to file your adjustment of status for your green card through one of them. Meanwhile, you're here undocumented unless there's some other way that you can get status. You should definitely talk with an attorney. You can give us a call for a free discovery call, 541-653-8899. See if you have any options. But anyone who is not in status is considered a priority for deportation. Trump said he was deporting criminal immigrants, and they consider anyone who is here undocumented to be a criminal. Even though being out of status is only a civil violation, it is not a criminal offense, they still consider anyone out of status to be a priority for deportation. So I don't know where they would put you if they detain you, because there's no more beds. They are releasing people. So I don't know. I don't know like how likely it is that you would be caught by ICE, but it is possible that you could be deported. Now, if you've been here since 2008, that means that you've been here over 10 years. And so you might be eligible for cancellation of removal. In order to do that, you have to show that one of your children who is under 21 would suffer exceptional and extremely unusual hardship. This is that 10-year application that people always talk about. I always try to hit on this because it's such a misunderstanding, misconception. People are like, oh, you just have to be here 10 years, have a U.S. citizen child, and then you can get your status. No, first of all, you have to be picked up by ICE or put into removal proceedings, and because only a judge can hear this type of case. Second, your U.S. citizen parent, child, or spouse has to be suffering from something like extremely difficult. Like you're talking like a super special needs kid, or a spouse or parent with like a very difficult medical situation. It doesn't always have to be medical, but it has to be extreme and unusual, exceptionally unusual hardship is the standard. It's a very high standard. It's the highest standard in immigration law. And so it's very hard to win those cases. They're winnable. People do win them. Our office has won them. But you have to have that kind of evidence. You can't just show that you've been here and that you have kids from here. You have to meet that other standard too. You also have to show that you're a person of good moral character. So certain crimes can disqualify you for that. So Viviana, if you're caught by ICE, you should insist on your right to see a judge. You should preferably have talked to an immigration attorney before getting detained, so they will have your information and be able to request for you to leave detention on bond and then begin your application outside. So very important to talk with an attorney before, to have your name in their system, know what your options are, know what you should do if you're encountered by ICE. Estuve explicando algo que siempre escucho, que dicen la gente, pues tengo un hijo discapacitado y tengo 10 años aquí, ¿cómo puedo arreglar? Y normalmente están pensando en el programa de cancelación de expulsión, pero esto es para personas que ya están en proceso de deportación, porque solamente un juez de deportación, un juez de inmigración puede revisar este tipo de caso, puede aprobar este tipo de caso, y es sumamente difícil ganar porque tiene que demostrar angustia súper extrema. Estamos hablando de hijos súper discapacitados o padres o esposos que tienen enfermedades muy graves, o su situación de salud mental, algo así súper grave, tal vez hijos que tienen discapacidades de aprender o algo así. Entonces, es muy difícil ganar esos tipos de casos. He visto personas que han empezado un caso de asilo para el propósito de presentar su caso en corte para cancelación de expulsión. Esto es muy riesgoso y creo que la mayoría de la gente que lo hace no entiende los riesgos. ¿Qué tal si su hijo cumple 21 años antes que un juez decida su caso? Que muchas veces con las cortes tan llenas, el juez no puede escuchar el caso hasta que ya tiene 21 años. Entonces, muy riesgoso hacer esto. Hay que entender las consecuencias de cada opción y cada decisión. Can a person that has a work permit and clean record be deported? Anything's possible. ICE has now a quota of like 75 detentions per day per field office. They're trying to reach this quota. And if they're anything like our local ICE office that is small, understaffed, they don't have the time or the resources or the energy to go about doing large scale raids. That's why we're not seeing them in our county. Now, they might be preparing something, I don't know, but I know that they are understaffed and they do not have the resources to do that. But what they do have is people coming into the office on a daily basis who are required to be under an order of supervision. And what I suspect might start happening if they are required to meet these quotas is that they could just start detaining these people who there's no basis to detain them. They are here in process. They have a court date. They have a work permit. They're following all of the rules, but they could just make up some reason and they have all the authority to do that. So anything's possible. Is it I like to make the difference between possible and probable. Like possible, yes. Probable, no. Not very likely that it's going to happen. Number one, because if you have a clean record, you're not going to probably have contact with ICE unless you're one of the people that's like going on a monthly basis to those supervision meetings, which if you are, I recommend that you have your attorney sign a notice of representation or possibly even go with you. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. And know that it is a possibility. I'm not going to say, I don't want to come on here and say that this is happening because I haven't heard that it's happening yet. But I do remember that some of my clients under the first administration like got detained for no reason. Oh, our first comment over on Facebook. Pedro, si tengo permiso de trabajo vigente, puedo ir a la frontera. Puede ir a la frontera, pero no puede salir. Entonces, el permiso de trabajo no es permiso para viajar. A menos si tiene permiso para viajar, puede viajar. Pero si solo es un permiso de trabajo, esto es una evidencia de estar aquí legalmente en los Estados Unidos. Ahora, si está yendo a la frontera, tiene que entender que si está manejando 100 millas después de la frontera, hay otro garitas, creo que se dice, lugar donde revisan con agentes de inmigración. Entonces, allí pueden hacer preguntas, pueden revisar su vehículo, sus pertenencias, pueden investigar su situación y detenerle un tiempo mientras está haciendo esa investigación. Entonces, esto, si no tiene que ir tan cerca a la frontera, no lo recomiendo porque es una molestia. Y si cae en manos de un agente que está de malas, como estuve explicando ahorita, aún las personas que tienen permiso de trabajo, ellos pueden inventar una excusa para detener. No estoy diciendo que eso es probable o muy probable, pero es posible porque ellos ya sabemos que ellos hacen lo que quieren. Entonces, puede ir, pero ten cuidado, Pedro. Gracias por su pregunta. Barrett, your daughter-in-law's visa is approved. You're waiting forever for the interview. Any way to speed it up? Sometimes there is, especially if there's an emergency, a medical situation. It could be either physical health, mental health reason, or, just some kind of situation in the home country. You can get your congressional representative involved to try to speed along the case. Unfortunately, sometimes there's just delays because there's other people who have applied sooner and they're processing these on a case-by-case basis. And so it just depends how many agents they have, how many consular officers they have to process that. So once it's approved, that's a great step, but still the next step is to have that interview. And depending on the type of visa, there might be some steps that you need to take in order to get that interview scheduled. Each consulate is different. Each one has different rules depending on the visa type. So if you have any questions, make sure you check in with an immigration attorney. Hopefully you're working with an immigration attorney. There's no website to check with that. That's not Barrett. That's not yours. Kim Bahena, website to check for what? So Barrett, hopefully you have an attorney that you're working with to make sure that that's all been done correctly. If someone has a pending U visa and they marry a US citizen, will it speed up the process? It will not speed up the U visa process. That depends on when you filed, what your place in line is, how many other people are ahead of you. However, if you marry a US citizen, you might be eligible for your green card faster, depending on how you entered, how many exits, your immigration history, your criminal history. All of those things will impact how you're able to process a green card. So, Christy, definitely talk with an immigration attorney about those options. Tay for a DACA AP case, visiting the tomb of your husband's parent. Depends on how recently the death occurred. I have heard of people being successful with that. I think it's on a case-by-case basis, depending on what officers reviewing the case. It's worth a try, especially if you're trying to do your residency through marriage to a U.S. citizen. Definitely take advantage of that DACA advanced parole opportunity. Find some reason to need to travel. We were concerned that that program might be taken away, or that people might be stopped or not allowed to come back. But that is not happening. People are leaving with the DACA advanced parole. It's still safe to do it. I'm still recommending it, and it's a great way to get your green card if you are married to a U.S. citizen. So please, Tay 2023, go do it. Prosecutorial discretion, Jack, your question in New York City. I don't practice in New York City, so I don't know. But nationwide, prosecutorial discretion as we knew it prior to Trump taking office is dead. They still have discretion, and they can on a case-by-case basis, but you're not going to see the numbers of cases being dismissed that we saw under Biden. Talk with an attorney, Jack. Hopefully you're working with an attorney to do that. David, I love Guatemala. I'm hoping to get back this year. I went for the first time last summer. One of your key employees is from there. She has 3 kids born here, or they have 3 kids born here. Worked for you for 20 years. Talk with an attorney to see if there's any options depending on the ages of the kids and how she came here. Sounds like she's been here 20 years, so her kids might be getting ready to turn 21. There might be something that can be done for them depending on how she entered. Okay, Chris, thank you. I'm sure you're working overtime. You are so appreciated. Thank you for those kind words. It is a struggle, but we're in it, and we knew this is how it would be. What I am surprised by is the number of people who've had options for, in some cases, like decades, who have put it off, and for some reason now they're taking it seriously and they feel like they're ready to move it forward. So no judgment. There's a lot of things in my life that I put off for different reasons, so I totally understand that. But it is what's causing us to be more busy. Is and it's frustrating, I guess, because it's like it could have been a lot easier, a couple of years ago to get this done, and now it's going to be more challenging. David, anything you can do to help him? Okay, it's a him. Probably not. After someone's been here more than 6 months without status, there's not options for work visas. So you could help him pay for a consultation fee. Our office doesn't charge for a consultation fee, but maybe help him pay for legal fees if there's options for him, depending on how he entered, how many times he's come and gone. There might just not be anything that can be done. Viviana, I think you're talking about the cancellation of removal, the extreme and exceptionally unusual hardship that has to be shown for the U.S. citizen family member. You're asking if ADHD or anxiety will work sometimes, and you can put hardship together. So like maybe the spouse and kid and the other kid and the parent, like you can add them all together in the aggregate in order to make it reach that level. Paul, what would happen to those who have no criminal record and have pending docs from USCIS? Once it depends on what the application is that's pending. I was mentioning earlier that there was a leaked memo from ICE that they are considering whether or not they will continue to let people stay here when they have like a receipt notice for something like a U visa or a VAWA, something that's going to take a while to get approved. So far, we haven't heard of anyone being deported in that particular situation, but it's possible. So again, I feel like I keep saying this, it's possible, not very likely, not very probable. I guess that's the best answer that we can say. It's not impossible. How long are appointments taken for Sila Juarez interview? About 9 to 12 months is what we're seeing for our clients, Lala. So get ready. We've been surprised because they were taking like 2 or 3 years. So they started speeding up and all of a sudden we started getting an interview notice. We're like, oh, everybody needs to get ready to go. Vane, your mother is a resident and she wants to travel within the United States. Can she? Of course she can. I recommend anyone take with them their actual document. Technically, if you're a resident, you're supposed to carry your green card at all times. I don't know many people that do, because if you lose it or get stolen, like you're gonna have to pay $500 to get a new one. So definitely she can travel. If she is not white, my husband is dark skinned, Mexican American. So I'm recommending that he carries his passport everywhere he goes. Just because the problem with Trump is that he's emboldened people to feel like they now have the right to call people out who are non-white and tell those people that they don't belong here and tell those people that they should go back to Mexico. My husband is like 3rd or 4th generation American, served in the US Army for over 11 years, and still he's had that happen to him where people have told him to go back to Mexico, told him he doesn't belong here. It's ridiculous. So if you are not white, I highly recommend you carry with you documentation. It's stupid. You shouldn't have to do that, but better safe than sorry. Pedro, you had a follow-up question here in Facebook. Si tengo permiso de trabajo vigente, ¿puedo ir a la frontera? Oh, that was the same one. También dijo muchas gracias. Pregunta, ¿qué tipo de cosas toman? Creo que está hablando porque estuve diciendo que en la frontera pueden revisar, inspeccionar sus pertenencias, su vehículo. Entonces, si tiene algo ilegal como drogas o está traficando en personas, pues claro que se va a meter en problemas más serios. Pero normalmente no toman cosas, solamente que quitan su tiempo. Y eso causa estrés. Entonces, si tiene que ir, pues que vaya. Solamente que si no tiene que ir, pues no hay mucho allá. Viví en la frontera 6 años en Texas, en Harlingen, Brownsville. Entonces, yo conozco allá y no hay mucho allá. Entonces, que vaya a California, a Los Ángeles, a San Diego, pero más sur de allá no hay mucho. Lorena, you have TPS until April. You have an appointment with DHS in February. Your case was dismissed. Can they arrest you? Yeah, so TPS for Venezuela is ending for most people in April. I'm recommending that people file asylum immediately if you have a fear of returning to Venezuela. El programa de TPS para Venezuela se va a acabar en abril. Entonces, si tiene TPS de Venezuela y tiene temor de regresar a su país, recomiendo hacer una petición de asilo lo antes posible. Jake Caso, if someone claims asylum, can they marry someone and do an adjustment of status? Depending on how they entered, they may not be eligible for an adjustment of status, but they could still get their green card other ways. It just might be a little bit more complicated. And yes, you can file as many applications as you want. Some people did an asylum, a TPS, a marriage-based. It just gets more expensive the more cases you do and the filing fees you have to pay, but you can definitely do that. And then eventually, once you get adjustment of status, the asylum office will send you a notice saying, do you want to continue with your asylum or do you want to withdraw it? Most people will just withdraw it at that point. An aunt cannot file for a niece. That is not one of the relationships. JM Rodenas, that's not one of the relationships that's allowed. Jake, you had a prior criminal record and then you got U.S. citizenship. You disclosed that information on your citizenship, and now you want to travel internationally. If you have a U.S. passport, some criminal records, some criminal history will will disqualify you from getting a passport. So just check on that. But if you can get a passport, then you can travel. Someone's asking about a driver's license, proper identification, because I was saying previously people need to be carrying documentation. Depends on what state. If it's like a real ID, then that's evidence that you have legal status. But if it's, many states give licenses to people who are undocumented. So that's not necessarily proof of status. Thanks everybody for the gifts. That's really nice. Can you change from J1 to F1 while pending asylum? Talk with your immigration attorney. Hopefully you're working with one. That's complicated. Lorena, I don't know if they'll arrest you on your appointment. I would hope not, but I would file an asylum application before that appointment in February if possible. You can file it online. You don't need to put, a ton of information in there, but at least something basic so that you have that protection. You can take the receipt notice with you to your appointment. They can still detain you and tell you that you need to wait in detention. And then it'll be your decision if you, you want to do that. But I don't know, resources, just ICE doesn't have the facilities to detain people. And I'm sure that they're not going to take someone like you to Guantanamo Bay. They're going to have huge lawsuits on their hands if they're taking, people who are not high priority, not dangerous criminals to a place that's known for torturing people. Yeah, I can't speak to whether or not you can get into Colombia. That's going to depend on the country. Certain countries also have rules about what type of criminal history they don't want coming into their countries. Check with Colombia about that. I'm thinking about going to Colombia this year too. So if you go, tell me how it was. Miss Izu, I don't do a lot of cases in Lagos. I don't know how long they're taking from documentary qualified to interview. You might want to check there. There's all kinds of Facebook groups, if you guys aren't aware of this, but there's all kinds of groups where, like, depending on the consulate you're waiting for, you can check with other people, like, how long did it take to get an interview? How was it? So that's a good resource to get information like that. Oh, Jake, you have a Colombian passport. That's cool. Dual citizenship. So yeah, again, just check in with somebody in Colombia. I'd hate to see you at least get detained or like you're saying, get turned back. That would be a pain. So Jake, you should tell me where I should go in Colombia. We have some of our team members there, so we're planning a retreat later this year, and we're trying to decide what we're going to do. Oh, you're worried about being denied entry back to the U.S. No, I wouldn't worry about that. Sorry, it's hard to follow these questions and guessing what the question is. All right. So Jake, you owe me like a present from Colombia now because I gave you that free information. You're going to Bogota, Medellin, Cartagena. Oh, you're going to be there a while then, probably. I heard like that's the best time of year to go, right? Is March to March to June or something like that. I'm looking at going in the fall, which sounds like it's not the best time to go, but that's what'll work with our schedule. Take me to the playa. Let's go. Okay, guys, I have to go eat my actual lunch now after this live at lunch. Thanks for joining me. Great questions, and happy to see the loser keep losing. So let's keep it up. Everyone, I heard that there was like a video that went viral that was talking about how everybody knowing what their rights are and everybody like filming ICE and being aware and making a scene, that all of those have limited ICE's ability to conduct the mass deportation that they said they were going to do. So let's keep it up. Everybody helps. Everybody does their part. Everybody's important because immigrants make America great. Thanks, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next time.